we want to make sure that we're operating in an environmentally, ethically great. But also creation of jobs and long-term jobs, careers for our people.
Tonight, the Woodland Cree First Nation is getting into the world of artificial intelligence with the creation of a massive data center.
They were supposed to be going extinct. Now I think they're coming back. So it was the perfect rescue for us to do this.
A Métis man is turning trash into treasure and donating to animals in need. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The search at a Winnipeg area landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women slain by a serial killer has come to an end. The province of Manitoba announced late on Thursday that the search of the Prairie Green landfill officially ended on July 9th. Private ceremonies were held earlier this week with the families of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, alongside Premier Wab Kinew, members of the search team, and other community supporters. The province says the ceremonies honored the lives of the women whose remains were recovered during the search and the strength of the families. The search for the remains of Ashley Shingoose, also the victim of the same serial killer, will now get underway at the city-owned Brady landfill. The province says relevant specialized equipment and personnel will soon transition to that site. Meanwhile, family and advocates continue to push for a search for Tanya Nepanak, who went missing in 2011 and whose remains are believed to also be at the Brady landfill. At a press conference in Ottawa on Friday, the federal government provided an update on the wildfire situation, which has ravaged northern parts of BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario this summer. Minister of Energy and Natural Resources Tim Hodgson announced $11.7 million over 4 years to establish a wildfire resilience consortium. It will draw on the resources of the Canadian and foreign governments in the private sector to use cutting-edge science and technology for wildlife prevention and wildfire prevention and preparedness. The center will also rely on knowledge gained from Indigenous fire stewardship. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Galmasti noted Indigenous communities have borne the brunt of the wildfires. 66 First Nations have had to evacuate about 39,000 people so far this year. Galmasti says that's why Indigenous peoples need to be involved in any strategy to combat wildfires.
To truly advance emergency management, First Nations must be full and equal partners. First Nation leadership and community members are best positioned to advise on appropriate practices, as each brings a deep knowledge of their lands and traditions developed over countless generations and with deep connection to their territory.
Hundreds of employees and contractors at the Ekati diamond mine in the Northwest Territories are out of work because of its mining site has been temporarily closed. Burgundy Diamond Mines, owner of the mine, announced on July 16th that the Point Lake open pit site will be temporarily cease operations due to poor market conditions. Hundreds of employees have been laid off, according to a company spokesperson who could not give exact numbers at this time. In a 2024 report, 700 employees and over 500 contractors were employed at the Ekati mine, 28% of whom were Northerners. Burgundy stated that operations will continue at the underground Misery mine and that the Point Lake site could reopen should market conditions improve. The Woodland Cree First Nation in northern Alberta is getting into the high-tech world of artificial intelligence by starting work on a massive 650 gigawatt AI data center. And their chief says it can provide good jobs and be environmentally friendly. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Artificial intelligence is the hottest item in technology. It can help with your homework, job, or hobbies. but it takes huge amounts of power to operate, and the Woodland Cree First Nation is a 51% owner of the Mita-Aski Data Center. It will be built on the site of an abandoned processing plant in Carmen Creek. Chief Isaac Labakan of ROM says that having a partial build helps make the project have a much lighter environmental impact.
Where we're developing it is in a place that had already had industrial activity on it already. So we're not making necessarily a new footprint to create this. We're creating it on a site and repurposing the site.
John Horseman is the CFO of Sovereign Digital Infrastructure, the other partner on the data center.
We believe that the project will end up being net zero, and in the end, and so the natural gas facility itself will be a combined cycle facility, which is a very low emissions intensity. And we've got a line of sight on some carbon sequestration reservoirs in the area that can actually bring the project to a net zero basis.
Horseman says they are in talks with Google and Amazon as potential users of the data center, which would have thousands of computer servers connected to high-speed fiber cables to transmit the processed data. Chief Isaac says that protecting the environment and creating economic benefits for the people of Woodland Cree can both be done here.
We are going to find ways to actually minimize the use of water or even recycle some of the water that's needed. So we want to make sure that we're operating in an environmentally ethically, right? But also creation of jobs and long-term jobs, careers for our people.
Phase 1 is hoped to be up and running by the summer of 2027. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Writer Robert Jago found himself unexpectedly behind closed doors at the First Nations Summit this week in Gatineau. He'll join us to talk all about it after the break. Welcome back. For reasons unclear, writer and entrepreneur Robert Jago received an invitation to this week's First Nations Summit in Gatineau, Quebec. He's written about his 2 days behind closed doors on his Substack, but he's here with us now to talk about the meetings between First Nations and the federal government over Bill C-5. Robert, thanks so much for taking some time here for us. I guess first off, do you have a sense of how you ended up getting into these closed-door meetings between the feds and First Nations leaders?
That is a really good question, because on the one hand, I'm the spokesperson for my nation's Democratic Council, which we formed in a popular revolt against our hereditary council, which is the one the federal government recognizes. So through that, I was in contact with this quite a lot. So it's possible I got the invite through that, because for Salish people, spokesperson is same level as chief. That being said, they didn't send it to that email. They sent it to my business email. And my business email is for a company which provides a contact database for every First Nation in Canada. So I think that maybe they scraped my site and scraped my email along with it, something like that. Hard to say, but it wasn't with a lot of care.
Right. Well, either way, I guess you were in the meetings. What stands out from you from the 2 days?
The limited amount of speaking time for actual chiefs, or for sitting chiefs of First Nations. On the second day, it got to a point where the moderator had to come out and ask the ministers, please not talk so much. Because what we found is there were these endless speeches about promising to listen. We're here to listen to you. We're here to take in what you have to say. But they talked so much that they ran out of time. So sessions that were meant to be an hour and a half got squeezed to 35 minutes. And of that 35 minutes, 20 that was ministers talking. So there was very little time for actual First Nations to speak. And the agenda came so late. And the fact that all of the policy experts were with me in the overflow room, because they weren't allowed in either, meant that the chiefs were under-equipped to actually provide substantive answers to the questions that were dropped on them last minute. The questions that they had to answer, to talk about, were these 9 questions that were dropped on them the day of the meeting. And they had no time to check with policy experts, check with anybody. They just had to spit it out extemporaneously. The whole thing seemed very off the cuff, very improvised.
Yeah, that's
go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting, since the only part that I really saw was the Prime Minister saying he was going to talk now, and then he was going to be listening for the rest of the time there. So interesting that you're saying that leaders didn't really get much of a chance to speak.
Yeah, it was really surprising, and I think part of it is that we have a couple new Indigenous ministers who forget that they're now on the government side, and so now should be on the listening side, not on the long speechifying side.
Right. What do you see? How do you see this all playing out, Robert, in the coming days and months?
I think that this was a real own goal. That it impressed the Indigenous ministers in Parliament and impressed the Indigenous MPs, but not so much the chiefs. What it showed for the chiefs is that they need to do a lot of background working, back-end working. But I think that what it says about how any of these major national interest projects are going to work out is that it's probably going to be a lot of the same sort of thing, where it's going to be improvised last minute, and we're going to come in after it's all decided, which was the fear of the whole bill. And the conference itself, the summit itself, just demonstrated how the bill would work. It's going to be last minute, just to appease complaints, and we're not really going to be considered when it matters.
Right. Well, Robert, we are glad that you got in, and we'll tell people to head over to your Robert Jago Substack to read your insider take on what happened, and appreciate you taking some time for us here to talk about it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Time for a quick break, but still to come, he's hauling bottles and cans, not for himself, but for animals in need. What motivated one Manitoba man to give back in a unique way?
They were supposed to be going extinct. Now I think they're coming back. So it was the perfect rescue for us to do this.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Greg Scriver shared a beautiful golden orange sunset from Ottawa, Ontario. Thanks for sharing, Greg. If you're out and about this weekend, take a picture and send it to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 27 in Fredericton and Halifax. 11 with showers in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain and a high of 10. Sun's out and 27 in Montreal, 21 and rain in Chibougamau. 19 with showers in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 28 in Ottawa. 23 in Thunder Bay, showers and 22 in Sioux Lookout. Smoky and 23 in God's Lake, smoke and 25 in Norway House. Smoky in Winnipeg and 26, 25 with smoke in Dauphin. 23 in Regina, 24 in Saskatoon. Smoky and 26 in Buffalo Narrows, 24 with smoke in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, showers and 28 in High Level, Fort Chipewyan and Fort McMurray. 20 with showers in Edmonton, 26 in Lethbridge. 21 and rain in Vancouver, showers and 25 in Kamloops. 22 with rain in Prince George, showers and 28 in Smithers. Rain and 20 in Old Crow, 23 with rain in Whitehorse. 20 in Yellowknife, 19 with showers in Wrigley. 12 with showers in Sax Harbor, rain and 5 in Paulatuck. 14 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove, 19 in Baker Lake. 11 in Resolute, 8 in Pangertung. Red River Métis citizen Ron Breland is helping foster a new generation of Ojibwe spirit horses, one piece of scrap metal at a time. Through his initiative, Recycling for Animals, Breland collects people's unwanted items and donates the proceeds to animals in need. Sierra Bettens brings you that story.
For the past 4 years, Ron Breland and his wife, Gwen, have been turning people's trash into treasured support for animals.
So I put an ad on Facebook, or ads on Facebook, and asking for recyclable metal, junk, used items that people don't want anymore. Once a week, we go and pick the stuff up, and then we go to the 2 scrap yards that I deal with.
This is Chase, an Ojibwe spirit horse living at the Sage Hill Stables on the outskirts of Winnipeg, and a beneficiary of Breland's initiative, Recycling for Animals.
We've been supporting Chase for about a year and a half now, and we're platinum sponsors, as high as you can go. Very happy about that. And being an Aboriginal horse, and I'm Métis, and it just fit. It just was the right fit. And they were supposed to be going extinct. Now I think they're coming back. So it was the perfect rescue for us to do this.
The Ojibwe spirit horse, also known as a Lac La Croix Indigenous pony, is believed to be the only surviving horse breed developed by Indigenous peoples in Canada. In the early 1900s, thousands lived in the wild and among Indigenous communities in Ontario, but they were killed by settlers who thought they were a nuisance. But in 1977, 5 men from the Boys Ford Indian Reservation in Minnesota and Lac La Croix First Nation in Ontario rescued 4 remaining mares and bred them. Volunteer caretaker Michelle McConomy is one of the people helping spirit horses like Chase thrive today.
Chase here came to Sage Hill Stables about 2 years ago in hopes of breeding him with some local Ojibwe spirit horse mares in Manitoba. They are an endangered breed. There's less than 200 in Canada. He's so gentle. He loves children. He's very curious. He's not your typical stallion.
Gwen Donahoe owns a stable. She says sponsors like Recycling for Animals make it possible to host Chase.
To keep them and take care of them, it all costs a lot, and Having a stallion, we can't really use him in our lesson program to bring in income to pay for it, so sponsors are the only way we can keep having him here.
Support from sponsors has also allowed them to host 3 Ojibwe mares.
We call them the Three Sisters. They're named after the Three Sisters Garden, so corn, beans, and squash.
The horses have also become a fixture of their community programming, including life skills workshops, Indigenous men and women's circles, and local powwows.
Using Ojibwe spirit horses to teach Indigenous youth and adults these life skills programs has been really special, and we've had lots of great feedback from the students saying how special it was that they felt to have an Ojibwe horse and they were also Indigenous.
By next year, recycling for animals may have more mouths to feed. The stable is hopeful the sisters will give birth to foals. Breland shares how people can support the cause.
We have a YouTube channel. It's called Recycling for Animals. And if we would get 1,000 views, 1,000 subscriptions and 1,000 views per month, YouTube would pay us, and I would donate that money right back.
Donations can also be made by calling 204-799-9382. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Good work, Ron. This weekend, Yellowknife's 45th annual Folk on the Rocks Festival will see musicians from across Canada performing, including acts like Snotty Nose Res Kids. A local youth group will also be taking the stage, led by Veronica Blackhawk, a lead singer of the band Tinge. Video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz has more.
For the past week, this group of young queer aspiring musicians have been hard at work. In the week leading up to Folk on the Rocks, Yellowknife's annual music festival, the Performing Arts and Queer Justice Camp for Youth has been meeting every day to learn about the relationship between social justice, identity, and music.
I turn the vocal output down.
Veronica Blackhawk, known for their music project titled Tinge, is a two-spirit Anishinaabe and Cree musician from Northwest Angle number 33, First Nation in Ontario. They've been invited by the Northern Mosaic Network, Yellowknife's 2S LGBTQ's advocacy group, to lead the songwriting workshops for the camp.
So we've all been working with this young group of emerging and aspiring songwriters to put together a production, a song that we can perform together on stage at Folk on the Rocks.
The group will be performing their song, Queer Summer Love, that they wrote together, as well as a few solo acts from each member. As a two-spirit Indigenous person, Veronica sees the connections between being queer, Indigenous, and the art of music.
When it comes to representation, having art is such an impactful and powerful tool because art is, for the most part, accessible for marginalized voices. We don't see ourselves represented a lot in media and music, so giving us the tools and the power to use our voices helps other young queer and Indigenous people in these small communities see themselves represented and empowered and know that they're not alone.
Veronica will also be a part of the Folk on the Rocks main lineup, along with other Indigenous acts like Northern musician Cassandra Blondin Burt and Snotty Nose Res Kids. They leave this parting message for any other aspiring musicians who are queer and Indigenous.
The world needs your art. We need you to take care of yourself so that your art has a chance to thrive, so that the rest of us can see our voices represented. We need each other, and the world needs your art.
Excellent. Tickets for this year's Folk on the Rocks are still on sale. To see the Performing Arts and Queer Justice Camp's performance, as well as Veronica's performance with Tinge, check out the Folk on the Rocks website at folkontherocks.com. Bruce Dela Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Thanks, Bruce. Good to see Veronica. Every Friday, we are joined by Kim Sullivan, host of Nouvelle, with a glimpse of their show. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Dennis, we promised to give our viewers Savannah's story about the commemoration of the 1990 siege of Kanesatake, so that's in tonight's show. And announced in the wee hours this morning, a new Grand Chief for the Cree government. So, of course, we talk about that. We have a great story about Indigenous voices and perspectives in artificial intelligence. And we do speak to Catherine Boivin after she won the defamation court case that she just went through. That is all tonight, 6:30 Eastern.
Yes, looking forward to that. Thanks, Kim. You can catch Kim right here in less than 1 minute from now. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Friday. You can stay up to date with the very latest by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also catch up on some of the week's biggest stories by tuning into APTN National News Weekend right here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Stick around. Kim is up next. Have a great night.